Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net, and today we're looking at Antec's new Kühler 1250 closed-loop liquid cooling solution, which uses an umlaut, so of course it is very good at being in a metal band, I guess. And it uses a unique dual pump design with the pumps mounted atop the fans, so it is a bit different than what we're used to. I ended up with two of these to test, so I decided to take the whole thing apart and show you how it works, as well as, of course, the normal benchmarking. First, the specs. Antec Kühler 1250 is their newest high-end 240mm liquid cooler, using an entirely in-house design and custom tooling by Antec. Most CLCs that we commonly talk about, if you are not aware, use Antec for their components, and Antec is a supplier that basically builds the same product and puts new stickers on it. They make it, and then Corsair, NZXT, whatever, they put their sticker and their LED on it. So occasionally some coolers do use other suppliers like Cool-It, and there are a couple others, but the point is that an in-house design is rare. It's pretty much limited to Cooler Master, Antec, and maybe one or two offhand designs from other companies right now. The 1250 uses two high RPM 120mm fans bolted to the radiator, and these are pre-installed, so you won't be able to install your own fans, but they are pretty high-powered stock. Atop each fan is a pump. The pumps work in a push-pull configuration to move the coolant through the radiator and the cold plate. So I say push-pull, of course, it's just a pump, right? It just pumps. It does both pushing and pulling, but because there are two of them, it is more efficient at pushing it to the CPU and then pulling it back up to the rad. From the bottom up, and this is true for all liquid coolers, from the bottom up, we start with a copper cold plate that rests atop the CPU. The cold plate uses a smooth copper finish for direct contact with the CPU's IHS, and a thermal interface obviously goes between the two for any bumps that need to be mitigated. The cold plate is attached to the CPU block, which is where our two hoses connect, and liquid comes in from one hose and is pushed through the channels in the cold plate. So the cold plate, as you can see, actually has little channels cut through the copper, so it's pushed through those, and then it's pulled out the next hose and kind of pulled back up to the radiator. Once the liquid ascends the exit tube and reaches the radiator, the entire time this is happening, the pumps are working in unison to do all of the movement, and they can because there are two pumps, we see an accelerated rate at which the liquid moves, which of course accelerates the rate at which it cools down and can be reused. So the cycle is a bit faster and more efficient in theory. Cooler liquid, of course, does mean a cooler cold plate, which means a cooler CPU. So the concept is very simple, and in theory it sounds fantastic. In practice, you'll see the performance results in a moment. What you're seeing right now, though, is a comparison of the Antec Kühler pump design against the standard Antec supplied one, in this case a Corsair H110. You can see that the H110 uses a plastic rotor to pump the liquid through the channels that ultimately cools the cold plate. The pump itself is on top of the CPU in this instance, so it is responsible for pushing the liquid to the radiator and then pulling it back down, and this is fundamentally different from the 1250's design, and we'll see which one performs better in benchmarks. The H110 is the current leader on our CPU cooler chart, FYI. Now, as great as all of this sounds, Antec's design does have a few complications, but they're not too bad. I do want to go over them, though. For starters, it's bulky. If your case was advertised as being designed for a 240mm radiator, they might have designed it specifically for the standalone radiators, which use user-mounted fans. The NZXT Phantom cases, for instance, you wouldn't be able to mount the Antec 1250 in the top of those cases because the fans are too tall and there's not enough clearance, so you'd have to install the cooler on the underside of this, which of course means it will hang into the case more. This could be a problem with some enclosures. It wasn't with the 820 I was testing with. Similarly problematic, the mounting system for the 1250 is one of the most annoying installations I've ever endured for a CPU cooler. It's kind of clumsy and cumbersome for a few reasons. Antec, check this. They say it's super easy. I mean, great. If you guys make it and you can install it fast, that's probably a good thing. You should probably be able to do that. I found it annoying. So the biggest reason it was annoying is because the mounting bracket itself brushes right up against the chokes on some motherboard designs for the VRM. In my case, I'm using a GD65 from MSI. It's sitting on those chokes, and installing it made me nervous enough to really, double check myself constantly, take a few tries to get the bracket tightened, and there's barely enough clearance on either side where the RAM goes and where the VRM heat sinks go for the hoses and the cabling. So it did fit. Just, if you have one of those boards, it will fit, but it did take a good bit of courage to do. So all that said, the design itself is fairly innovative when it comes to the present CLC market, and I'm excited to see where Antec takes it. Let's get to benchmark. So you can view our full testing methodology in the article in the link below. On the bench, Antec Kühler is a firm first place liquid cooler. It takes our Best of Bench award away from Corsair, and is this is on the extreme setting. I'll talk about settings in a second. You can see it's positioned just ahead of Corsair's H110, which is our previous pack leader on the CPU cooler bench. It seems that the dual pump design in this case actually does work quite well, and the custom fans do impact cooling pretty substantially. Antec software controls the fan speed settings and the lighting, the LEDs. There are two different settings, extreme and silent, and then there's a custom setting that you can configure. RPMs vary from 600 to 3000, with 3000 and 650 being the extreme and silent settings respectively. Quite honestly, the extreme setting sounds like a jet engine and is, in my opinion, too loud for normal human use. It's great if you're doing extreme overclocking or rendering where you can kind of walk away from the machine or you don't care about noise. But if you're gaming or if you're watching a movie, you don't want that noise. So it's not a setting you'd ever want while gaming, but it's not made for that, right? It's made for extreme overclocking, so if it's not the right setting for it. I made the same exact statement about Corsair and NZXT's extreme settings. Basically, think of extreme as the showcase. It's the showcase car. Silent is truly pretty dead silent, and I didn't hear any annoying whirring or vibrational noise, and that is the showcase of as quiet as it gets. I found that using a custom setting at 1500 RPM works best. It gives good cooling power and still keeps it relatively silent, about as quiet as your PSU fan will be anyway. And Antec, if you're listening, make a 1500 RPM mid-range option a default choice. Maybe even the stock choice. It makes the most sense for end users. Let them play around in custom with some other thing, but give them 1500 by default. As for the LED stuff, it's pretty basic. Big range of LEDs, nothing important. So you can set any color you want, including black. Overall, I'm very satisfied with the Antec Kuhler 1250. Installation needs a serious overhaul, and if I see it again, I'm going to keep complaining about it until it's fixed. But I can live with the hassle given the awesome performance and silence options. Just be aware that you're going to curse and yell while you're trying to figure out if it'll actually fit on your board with the chokes. Anyone who wants to stay away from open loop cooling but still has a large budget for liquid or wants silence, this is our new frontrunner. It handily beats out Corsair's H110 at 120 bucks. It's a pretty competitive price. It's about the same price, maybe a little more, and easy pickup all day long. If you're looking for alternatives, I'd say check out Antec's 950 for a smaller form factor version of this. Also, NZXT's X40 for a small version. And Corsair's H110 is still a damn good cooler. If you can pick it up at 80 bucks, it's probably worth saving the money. Just depends on your budget and your objectives. Silverstone has a brand new unit out, and I'm in the process of reviewing that now. Check descriptions for links to all these products in the description below. That will help you find something for your PC. If you need more help, post on our forums. It's free support, free to ask a question. And hit the full review and benchmark below, and I will see you all next time. Peace.